Hello, Internet. The voice of Mike Bertolini here, and I'm here to read you a story. This story is both captivating in its horror and its excitement. Remember to subscribe, hit that like button, leave a comment below, let me know what you think about this story. So, without any further ado, let's just get into the story. In those first few days, the door had a mind of its own, manifesting around the house like a rabbit from a hat, never staying in one place for more than 10 seconds at a time. But by day 4, it seemed to have settled in the basement. Down there in the air was cool, and shelves wrapped around 3 of the 4 sides. A bare bulb in the middle of the room brightened and dimmed as I pushed aside musty boxes marked Christmas decorations. Those photo albums had to be close by. As I inspected the nook beneath the narrow staircase, there was a sound to my right, from the direction of the door. A heavy, toneless, frightening bang. I forced myself not to look over until it happened again. And there was a moment of jarring silence, followed by 2 knocks. Above my head, the bulb began to flicker. Now the air felt warm and clammy. Before, there had never been any sounds from behind the door. Just sat there, a tumorous growth along the wall, always vanishing with a rub of my eyes or shake of my head. While I stood cemented on the spot and forced myself not to think about what lay on the other side, the bulb finally died. Now the door seemed to expand and contract like a pair of flexing lungs. Inhale, exhale. There it was again. Knock, knock. My brain screamed, run. Instead, both legs gave out and I collapsed into a shelf. Tins of white and blue paint toppled over and splattered across the floor. By the time I found my feet, the knock had become a furious thump, thump, thump that rattled the wood in its housing. The door came alive, lurching, pulsing, threatening to burst off its hinges. The very last moment, as I reached the top of the stairs, I glanced back and saw it jump violently, as if someone had swung a sledgehammer against the other side. In the safety of the downstairs hall, I realized I had been holding my breath the entire time. Darren? My mom emerged from the kitchen, holding onto the wall for support. Just walking was difficult for her. I heard a crash. What happened? A damn light went out and I spilled some paint, I said. My left pant leg was speckled white. I'll pick up a new bulb and clean up the mess tomorrow. Later, she made us both vegetable soup for dinner. The doctor advised her to rest until the spinal surgery. My whole reason for moving home. But convincing her to listen was like chewing salt. She filled 2 bowls, found a seat, groaned painfully as she plopped down. We watched a news report about a murder abduction that recently happened close by. A 7-year-old named Abby had vanished from her home. 2 officers discovered her grandmother's corpse in a bedroom. Her belly slit open like a fish. Mom tutted, "Isn't that desperate? First the break-ins, and now this." The story sent shockwaves through the entire neighborhood. Tony and Clark, the couple who lived next door, even installed a video doorbell, although the side window was sometimes left open. It's how most experienced burglars would break in. Abby's mother, a blonde lady in her 30s, sobbed on camera and made a desperate appeal for anyone with information to come forward. Mom tutted and said, "That poor, poor woman. Imagine what she's going through after losing both her mother and her daughter." When a picture of Abby appeared, I switched off the TV. Mom turned to face me. "Speaking of, when are you going to find a nice girl and settle down?" Her voice had gone serious. I waited for the next part. "I'm not going to live forever, you know." There it was. Ever since Dad's heart attack, Mom made a point to frequently remind me how the only thing she wanted, before she kicked the bucket, was some grandchildren to spoil. "Settle down," I asked. Where am I going to find someone who measures up to you? Sophia attempted to solve the tension. She just glared at me. Soon Mom was ready for bed. By the time I helped her upstairs and into her gown, the door had crept to the side wall of her room, almost entirely covered by a dresser. Switching on the bedside lamp, I said, "There. Anything else I can—" "Knock, knock." My voice trailed off. Mom reached forward, pressed a cold hand against my forehead, and said, "Everything okay? You look pale." Sometimes it was hard to remember who was taking care of who. There was a clamor of noises, and then the handle jiggled. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said. "Just tired." The door thudded against the dresser. Then, from behind, I heard hard fingers scrape across wood. Scrap! Mom rolled onto her side, oblivious to the muffled sounds. "Okay. Night, Darren." Scrap! 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 "Night, Mom." For the rest of the evening, the door was more active than ever. Before, it never appeared for long. Hell, those first 2 days I wasn't sure whether I'd actually seen it at all. But now it stalked me, following me to the bathroom, along the hall, into the lounge. I felt perpetually spied upon. I imagined I could hear its thoughts. "Yep, I'm still here, and I'm not going anywhere." If not for Mom's condition, I would have hightailed it to a hotel, or maybe slept in a tent. I reminded myself the door wasn't real, that I wasn't some boogeyman. We both know that's not true. In my bedroom, thunder boomed beyond the window. Rain fell hard against the glass, and the door dozed behind the foot of my bed. I lay down, tried to sleep. After a few minutes, the handle began to rattle and turn. I sat up and stared so fixedly I didn't even notice my heart miss its rhythm. The door slowly shivered open 3 inches, 4 inches, 5. And as it did, the room shifted on its axis, tilting downward. My bed's metal legs slid across the wooden floor. The incline became steeper and steeper until the floor was entirely vertical. The door was thrown open wide. Beyond it lay a long, black tunnel. Furniture fell forward towards the side of the room. My stomach leaped as it would on a roller coaster as I plummeted sideways. The bed rotated, becoming awkwardly pinched between the walls. At the very last second, I caught hold of the frame and held on. Darkness seeped out of the tunnel, snapping at the soles of my bare feet. The door wanted to swallow me whole, to drag me to endless blackness, into the sinister world on the other side. My heart pounded in my ears as it laughed. "Wanna come play, Darren?" My legs dangled above the hungry, hungry mouth. Palm sweat forced me to constantly readjust my grip. I couldn't hold on for much longer. Was this a punishment from God? Why? Why me? You know why. "No!" I screamed out loud. With that, my strength gave out, and I fell onto the floor with a stiff grunt. Suddenly, the room and everything in it was right side up. Was it just a nightmare? From down the hall, Mom called my name. No, it wasn't a nightmare. The door had gone after her. "You're too much trouble. I'll eat your mother instead. Much easier prey." I burst to her room and rushed her aside. "What's wrong? Are you okay?" I put a hand on her cheek. "Speak to me." She looked puzzled. "I was going to ask for a glass of water, but if you're feeling sick, I'll make you some." "No, I'm fine. Just worried about you's all. Stay here while I get that water." Still trembling from the earlier encounter, I returned to bed. The door remained perfectly still. Perhaps it was dozing. A few minutes later, there were faint dap, 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 dap. I squeezed my eyelids together and folded the pillow over my ears, desperate to ignore the sounds, to pretend everything was fine. But now I could sense the door radiate malevolence, radiate hatred. That sense became intolerable. Mom's soup almost lit up again. I finally looked over. Thunder boomed outside, briefly throwing light around the room. The door was no longer mounted against the wall. Now it was standing dead ahead, drawing closer and closer. As it approached my bed, the cramped room became claustrophobic. Something hefty threw itself against the other side, and like a child I pulled the sheets up over my head. The bumps and bangs grew louder and faster, sounding like the armies of hell were about to burst through. Then, the sounds vanished. For a moment, I thought that was it. That the nightmare was over. As I lowered the sheet to my nose, the handle rotated all the way down. All I could do was lay still and watch the door swing outward, squealing on its hinges. Behind the frame was part of a stone wall and a rickety set of stairs that descended into a thick, damp darkness. Swallowing a lump in my throat, I inched forward and whispered, "Hello?" "Help me," said a tiny voice.